Hello and welcome back to our channel, a new episode for AZ104 Microsoft Azure Administrator Certification Exam. Today we are diving into some carefully crafted exam questions complete with explanation to help you understand the core concepts. If you have not watched our previous video, you can check our entire playlist which has approx 100 plus questions. If you are looking for comprehensive AZ104 preparation resources, we have got you covered. Visit our website TechCloud Solution where you will find the AZ104 PDF featuring over 400 practice questions to sharpen your skills, an exclusive AZ104 course that mimics the actual certification exam experience, including detailed explanation for every questions, mock test and additional study materials to boost your confidence. Don't miss out. After watching this video, visit our websites and grab the AC104 PDF dumps or enroll in the course to get started. This is your chance to supercharge your preparation and achieve your certification goals. The link is in the description below. Question number 1. You have an app named App1 that runs on two Azure virtual machines named VM1 and VM2. You plan to implement an Azure availability set for App 1. The solution must ensure that App 1 is available during planned maintenance of the hardware hosting VM1 and VM2. What should you include in the availability set? The options are 1 update domain, B 2 fault domain, C 1 fault domain, and D 2 update domain. So, as per the question, the solution must ensure that app 1 is available during planned maintenance of the hardware hosting VM1 and VM2. So, the correct answer is D, that is to update domain. So, the hardware in a location is divided into multiple update domains and fault domains. An update domain is a group of VMs and underlying physical hardware that can be rebooted at the same time. VMs in the same fault domain share common storage as well as a common power source and network switch. Microsoft updates, which Microsoft refers to as planned maintenance events, sometimes require that VMs be reported to complete the update. To reduce the impact on VMs, the Azure Fabric is divided into update domains to ensure that not all VMs are rebooted at the same time. Now look at the incorrect answers. One update domain. So adding VMs in the same update domain will not suffice the requirements since it shares same underlying physical hardware that can be rebooted at the same time. Next option we have two fault domain. Fault domains define the group of virtual machines that share a common power source and network switch. It is group VMs for unplanned outages like power failures. And the last option, one fault domain, and the explanation will remain same for as two fault domain. Question number 2. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure storage account. You plan to create an Azure container instance named container1 that will use a Docker image named image1. Image1 contains a Microsoft SQL Server instance that requires persistent storage. You need to configure a storage service for container 1. What should you use? The options are A. Azure Files, B. Azure Blob Storage, C. Azure Queue Storage, and D. Azure Table Storage. So the correct answer is A, that is Azure Files. Azure Files Share can be used as persistent volumes for stateful containers. Containers deliver build once, run anywhere capabilities that enable developers to accelerate innovation. For the containers that access raw data at every start, a shared file system is required to allow these containers to access the file system no matter which instance they run on. Now other options which are incorrect as Azure Blob Storage. So Blob Storage is optimized for storing massive amounts of unstructured data. Next option, Azure Queue Storage. Queue storage is for storing messages in distributed application. And the last option is table storage. So table storage is for storing semi-structured data. Question number 3. Your company has an Azure subscription that is used by multiple departments in your company. The subscription contains around 5 resource groups. Each department uses resources in several resource groups. Your supervisor has requested to send a report that details the cost for each department. Which of the following action would you need to perform for this purpose? Choose three answers from the options given below. The options are A. Assign a tag to each resource group. B. Use the resource cost blade of each resource group. C. Download the user's report. D. Assign a tag to each resource. And E. From the cost analysis blade, filter the view by tag. So the correct answer is C, D, and E. Now, why option A and B are incorrect? As option A is incorrect since here the resources are used across various departments and are not constrained via resource group. Now, option B is incorrect since the costing on a tag basis needs to be seen from the cost analysis. Question number 4. A company has a set up a load balancer that load balances traffic on port 80 and 443 across three virtual machines. You have to ensure that all clients are serviced by the same web server for each request. Which of the following would you configure for this requirement? The options are A. Floating IP, B. Health probe, C. Session persistence, and D. TCP reset. So the correct answer is C, that is session persistence. So session persistence is also known as source IP affinity. So load balancer can also be configured by using the source IP affinity distribution mode. This distribution mode is also known as session affinity or client IP affinity. The mode uses a two tuple, that is source IP and destination IP, or three tuple, that is source IP, destination IP, and protocol type hash to map traffic to the available server. By using source IP affinity, connection that are initiated from the same client computer go to the same endpoint. Now option A is incorrect as since this is used when you have multiple front ends IPs. Option B is incorrect. This is used to check the health of the backend VMs. And D is incorrect since this is used for idle timeout. So if you would like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Question number 5. A company has set up a load balancer that load balances traffic on port 80 and 443 across three virtual machines. You have to ensure that all RDP traffic is directed towards a VM named demo VM. How would you achieve this? The options are A. By creating a new public load balancer for demo VM. B. By creating a new internal load balancer for demo VM. C. By creating an inbound NAT rule. And D. By creating a new IP configuration. So the correct answer is C, that is by creating an inbound NAT rule. Now the incorrect answer, option A and B are incorrect since we don't need to recreate an entire load balancer just for this scenario. Option D is incorrect since this is used to attach a front-end IP to the load balancer. Question number 6. A company currently has an Azure account and subscription. They want to host an application using virtual machines and a load balancer. There is a requirement to ensure that the application is made available 99.99% of the time. Which of the following would need to be in place? You also have to minimize cost associated with the solution. Choose two answers from the options given below. The options are A. Create a basic load balancer. B. Create a standard load balancer. C. Add two virtual machines to the backend pool. And D. Add a virtual machines to the backend pool. So the correct answer is B and C. So as per the Microsoft documentation for the SLA for load balancer, it says we guarantee that a load balanced endpoint using Azure standard load balancer serving two or more healthy virtual machines instances will be available 99.99% of the time. Basic load balancer is excluded from this SLA. Question number 7. A company has the following set of servers that need to be migrated to an Azure subscription. Name, operating system, and configurations are given as TechSet Pro ER1, that is Windows Server 2012 R2 domain controller. Then we have TechSet Pro ER2, Windows Server 2016, Microsoft SQL Server 2016. Then we have TechSet Pro ER3, Red Hat Linux Enterprise 7.5 file server. The company decides to use the Azure Site Recovery tool to move the servers to Azure. Would this fulfill the requirement? And the options are yes or no. So the correct answer is no. So Azure Site Recovery would not fulfill the requirement for all servers in this scenario. And the reason is here as for TechCert Pro ER1. So Azure Site Recovery primarily supports replicating and recovering virtual machines to Azure. While it can potentially replicate physical servers, it's not designed for migrating domain controller due to their complex dependencies and active directory synchronization requirements. A dedicated solution like Azure Migrate is recommended for domain controller migration. For next server, that is TechSet Pro ER2 Microsoft SQL Server 2016. So Azure Site Recovery supports migrating SQL Server VMs, but it's important to ensure compatibility with the specific versions and configuration. Additionally, migrating production databases requires careful planning and consideration beyond replication. Adding tools or process might be needed for a successful migration. Then the last option, that is TechCert Pro ER3, that is Red Hat Linux Enterprise 7.5 file server. So Azure Site Recovery supports migrating Linux VMs including Red Hat Enterprise 7.5. However, it's crucial to ensure proper migration and configuration for application compatibility in the Azure environment. Therefore, while Azure Site Recovery might be suitable for migrating some servers, it's not a one size fits all solution for all scenarios, especially considering domain controller and complex database migration. Question number 8. A company has set up a web application on a set of Azure virtual machines. The web application will be used by users across the world. The company is planning on setting up a content delivery profile to ensure that users get the ideal response time no matter where they are located. Which of the following would they need to fill out additionally to complete the configuration of the CDN endpoint? The options are A. Storage account keys, B. Cloud service name, C. App service plan, and D. Origin host name. So the correct answer is D, that is origin host name. Question number 9. An IT admin for a company's Azure account needs to create an Azure policy. The main purpose of the Azure policy is to ensure that only load balancer of a certain SKU are allowed to be created in the company's Azure subscription. Below is the snippet of the Azure policies. So you can pause the video and read the policy completely. Now question it says which of the following would go into slot 3? The options are allow, deny, accept, and create. So the correct answer is deny. Since the policy wants to only allow certain SKUs of the load balancers, we need to issue the deny clause here. That is in the slot 3. Question number 10. A company has set up a web application on a set of Azure virtual machines. The web application will be used by users across the world. The company is planning on setting up a content delivery profile to ensure that users get the ideal response times no matter where they are located. Which of the following would they set up as the origin type for the CDN endpoint? The options are A. Storage, B. Cloud service, C. Web app, and D. Custom origin. Correct answer is D, that is custom origin. So, since the company is using a web application hosted on an Azure virtual machines, this constitutes a custom origin. So, as per the Microsoft documentation, we have the four origin types. Number one, storage. Number two, cloud service. Number three, web app. And number four, custom origin. I hope these tips and tricks help you feel more confident for your exam. And don't forget, you can download the PDF and take a real exam simulation on our websites. Check the link in the comment section. If you found this helpful, like, share, and subscribe for more in depth exam prep, and let me know in the comment how your preparation is going. See you in the next one.